And okay. Thank you, Phyllis. Over to you.
Thank you, Bill, for a wonderful meditation. And I feel that you've covered just about everything that I'm going to talk about in a way. But anyway, as I thought about, and to be honest, I did this talk, a similar talk last week at Unity of Brisbane, and it was Bill's suggestion that I do the same one today, but I have changed it a little. But as you know, the title is Are We There Yet? And there are so many areas in life where we could ask that question, are we there yet? Collectively and personally. And as I see it, there are too many areas still where the answer would be not yet. And I'm just going to touch on a few. But normally we would hear children as they travel in cars, trains, planes, buses, trams, whatever the mode of transport, asking that question, are we there yet? It seems that it is a very common saying around the world, and there are many books written using that title, and I'm sure you're aware of advertisements too. I imagine that many of us as adults and also the children have asked that question during the past 18 months. Are we there yet? And we've watched as the numbers of vaccinated people go up and continue to wonder when the seemingly endless lockdown would end. Well, hooray, it has for many. And I'm sure you've all in Melbourne, at Sydney and other places given a great sigh of relief to know that the lockdown is over, because many people have been vaccinated to help keep us safe and well. However, there are still others experiencing quarantine simply because someone didn't consider others when they breached quarantine requirements. And that has happened in most every city, I understand. But changing to recent events, I went on a road trip with 3 friends, which inspired the talk title. We travelled in a Toyota, and you may remember the advertisement where the children in the back of a Toyota asked that question, are we there yet? Are we there yet? There's also a Simpsons film where the children are travelling to a vacation and they are really, really getting on board with, are we there yet? And it reminded me of a trip that my children and husband and I made from Mount Isa to Adelaide. It's a long way. And with 5 children in the back of the car, it really was a long way, because my husband was not one to make unnecessary stops so that we could stretch our legs or have a bit of a wander around. You go from A to B and no stops unless absolutely necessary in between. And even though we started our journey with zeal and enthusiasm, it wasn't long before we heard the inevitable, are we there yet? And there was certainly a tone of boredom in their voices. And honestly, I could understand their boredom because there wasn't much outside to look at, travelling through desert and very sparse, low-growing vegetation, if there was any. And so I know that as a child, I would have been pretty bored with all of that. And of course, when my children were growing up, they didn't have iPhones or diverse things. Sorry, I'm not sure whether you heard some of that or not, because it came up that I was muted. I don't know how that happened, but anyway. The children in the back of the car were pretty bored, and the lack of enthusiasm became very obvious as we went into this road trip after several hours. But for myself, I would marvel at the diversity of plant life, wildlife, and the changing colours of the earth. And this also inspired another aspect of my talk, which is what I'm going to look at now. In a small town north of Adelaide, my friends and I, who had planned to watch a light show on the local grain silo. As you know, a lot of grain silos these days are painted, but these weren't. They decided they'd do something different and have a light show. Well, that didn't happen because as we ate our dinner prior to the light show, we encountered a blackout. And of course, the light show was unable to go ahead. So we finished our dinner in the light of candles and the lights of our wonderful mobile phones, and then left to drive back to our accommodation in the very dark night along country roads. And we stopped along the way in the middle of what seemed like nowhere because there weren't lights to be seen in any which direction that you looked, except when we looked skyward. And the night sky was cloudless and absolutely ablaze with brilliant stars and planets, etc. And I know the silo show would have been wonderful, but the sky show was absolutely brilliant. And nature is always outweighs anything that we as humans can create, I think. And as we all know, next weekend is the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference, and it's going to be held in Glasgow. This conference hopes to accelerate major changes in all countries involved to make changes in legislation to set goals to help arrest climate change sooner rather than later. As spiritual beings, surely it is up to us to get on board with enthusiasm and show our love of this planet we live on and support it in its recovery from the mayhem that has been created by our love of material wealth, instead of embracing a way of living that truly embraces all of creation, including our planet Earth. Di Morrissey, in her novel Arcadia, dedicates the book to all environmental warriors who do their best, who stand up, speak up, and do what they can, big and small, to protect the most precious thing in the universe, planet Earth. This is one area, unfortunately, I believe, where the reply to the question, are we there yet, would be no, not yet. Is it because we want governments to do it for us rather than do our part as individuals without waiting for legislation or direction in what to do and how to do it to help this planet Earth and treat it with loving kindness? Are you one of those warriors that supports planet Earth in doing what you can to preserve it and arrest climate change? World peace is another area where the answer to the question, are we there yet, would, I think, be no, not yet. Often as I contemplate world peace, or lack of it, I'm reminded of a time when I visited Epcot in Orlando with a classmate and his wife on a road trip to Clearwater, Florida, one Christmas vacation when I was in ministerial school. On the third night of our visit to Orlando, we decided to return to the theme park in time to watch a light show that lit up the geodesic dome. It was a massive, massive dome. The light show was accompanied by music, and the very last piece we heard was, "Let there be peace on earth." As is often the custom in unity gatherings, my friends and I joined hands and sang along. This brought a tear to my eye as I realised there were people from all walks of life, all nationalities sharing the delights of the evening and listening to that song. I wonder if others in the crowd were moved in the same way my friends and I were. And how many of them as individuals do their bit to be an expression of peace on earth. Our daily word last week suggested that we need to do it is our sacred responsibility to peacefully respond to all people and circumstances with enthusiasm, commitment, and love. Are we there yet? Perhaps not in every area of our life. Yesterday, I opened an email from my sister that told me the sayings listed were from Winston Churchill, who is also said to have loved finishing sentences with something quite unexpected. And the one that I want to share with you today is, going to church doesn't make you a Christian any more than standing in a garage makes you a car. And I just cracked up with that one. I thought that was brilliant. And no, going to church doesn't make you a Christian, I don't think at all. And it doesn't matter whether you claim to be a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu, a Buddhist, or any other religious person. Going to the mosque, the synagogue, the temple, or the church really does not make you a Muslim, Hindu, etc. And I wonder how many of us can really say that we have reached our goal on our spiritual journey and respect and embrace all of humanity, all of Mother Earth, and all the diverse expressions at all time. I know, even for myself, there are times that I can say some of the things that I have done have not been very Christian-like. But when we make a decision to follow the teachings that we resonate with, we probably start our journey with enthusiasm or zeal and passion, and find it is not always easy to maintain that enthusiasm and zeal when life throws us a curveball. A spiritual journey can be exciting, it can be rewarding, and it can also be very challenging as we explore, learn, and grow in an awareness of the truth of our being. I believe that we all live a spiritual life, even if we are not aware of the fact that we are spiritual beings, simply because we are spiritual beings. And I like to remind myself frequently, as Paul Hasselbeck puts it, we are fully human and fully divine. And that way it helps me to keep on track to express that level of spiritual awareness or consciousness through my humanity and do it in the best possible way that I can. Our goal then, I think, is to express that authenticity, our divinity, as fully as we possibly can through our thoughts, words, and actions, not just some of the time, but all of the time. Not an easy task. And are we there yet? Well, I cannot speak for you, but I know I'm not. I find there are many times when I'm not thinking or speaking at the very best level that I can. But what I do know and understand is that we are all using spiritual laws knowingly or unconsciously. We use spiritual laws to benefit ourselves and others, or we use it to destroy or harm ourselves or others. We cannot escape using spiritual laws. We can mess up, which is why I know for myself, I am not there yet. I know for myself, and I've heard others say the same, I have to continue to participate in classes and the practices that I know will enhance my life. I need to be reminded often about how the law of cause and effect and the law of mind action can and does affect my life. I need to be reminded about the 12 powers and that they can be used on their own, but are far more potent and beneficial when used together. I need to be reminded too that I have dominion over my thoughts, feelings, and it is up to me to do all that I can to access the full potential that is innate within me. For me, participating in classes given by different individuals is a great way of learning. It's like reading a book for the second, third, or even fourth time. There is always something in it that you did not seem to read before, or even remember that you read before. So what can we do to support our lives, to express more of the truth of our being? We need to have faith that we can be all that we were meant to be. Eric Butterworth, yes, my favourite author, reminds us there is no such thing as lack of faith. We may be putting that faith in what can't be done instead of what can be done. He also reminds us that faith is not a magic catalyst to get God to work for us. Faith simply tunes into and turns on the divine flow that has always been present. Our job, he tells us, is not to set things right, but to see them rightly. This, of course, will influence the way we think, feel, and our words and actions. How do we see things rightly? Well, prayer and meditation help us to do that, and being grateful for all the wonders and delights of life, as well as the areas where we mess up, and remembering then to forgive ourselves and embrace the lesson that is in the situation for us to learn. I have shared with you some of my experiences that I have enjoyed on road trips that inspired, challenged, and expanded my awareness of this beautiful planet, the creativity of artists of all kinds, the interesting personalities of my companions as we travel this journey we call life. Of the diversity all around us that is not always easy to embrace. I have been challenged often to be the very best expression of who I am or my personality, and the inner teachings have also opened my mind to express at the same time what I am, my authentic divine self. These are just a few areas of life where we can ask the question, either collectively or individually, are we there yet? I encourage you to ask yourself the question, am I doing all to conserve the natural beauty of the earth and help reduce the severe weather patterns that are the effect of climate change? Am I continuing to learn and grow as a spiritual being to express my authentic self? Am I a peaceful presence on this earth? I have to remind myself that no one can do the work for me in any area of my life. I am grateful for the many who have supported me on my journey with zeal and enthusiasm, but ultimately I have to do the hard yards myself. And the degree to which I'm willing to do that is the degree to which I'm able to express my authentic divine self with zeal and enthusiasm. Am I there yet? No, not yet. How would you answer that question? Are you there yet? Have a wonderful, wonderful day.